Snap to Hempel. Got some time. Pumps, looks, gonna go for the bundle. Got Fisher complete. Touchdown, Crimson! Fisher 35 yards. Down the right sideline to the end zone. And the Crimson have got the lead. 30-24 with 55 seconds left. Rewind to the right. One to the left is Wallace. Going to look to Wallace. It is intercepted. Intercepted at the 15-yard line. The Crimson will take an undisputed Ivy League championship and conclude a perfect season here this afternoon.
Harvard football 2014 represents a long tradition of success under head coach Tim Murphy. Theirs is a tradition of excellence in academics, and on the field, a tradition of hard work, determination, and sacrifice. And these traditions culminated in one result: winning. The Crimson enter every season with high expectations, and this year was no exception. But the 2014 season, the 21st under Coach Murphy, would not only exceed expectations, but records would fall, milestones would be reached, and greatness achieved. Their success would be a total team effort. Making your way through the Ivy League with a target on your back is no easy task. But this Harvard team embraced the challenge and came out on the other side stronger, better, and victorious on their way to an outright Ivy League championship and undefeated season. They played as champions, and they won as champions. Harvard football opened its 141st season with the Crimson squaring off against Holy Cross under the bright lights of Harvard Stadium. The Crimson shined, and Harvard wasted little time setting the tone for their 2014 campaign. After their defense forced a 3-and-out on Holy Cross's opening drive, the Crimson offense went 47 yards on 6 plays for the first score of the season on a 3-yard run by Andrew Caston. Caston wasn't finished yet. The senior from Brick Township, New Jersey, rushed for a career-high 153 yards and 3 touchdowns on the night.
Pistol formation. Caston takes the handoff across the goal line and in for the touchdown. A trifecta for Andrew Caston.
The defense kept the pressure on all night. Senior defensive end Zach Hodges tied the Harvard career sacks record with 20.5 after bringing the Holy Cross passer down twice. The Crimson also forced 3 turnovers. James DeBerg made the first big play, coming up the middle and chasing down the quarterback from the backside, forcing a fumble recovered by teammate Matt Corrin. Linebacker Eric Mead stripped and recovered his own fumble and gave Harvard the ball back with 2 minutes remaining in the third quarter. The final blow came on an interception by number 44, Scott Peters, that allowed Harvard to run out the clock and made it the 12th time in the last 14 seasons Harvard had won its opener under Coach Tim Murphy. The Crimson traveled to Providence, Rhode Island to face Brown, the first in their Ivy League campaign. Scott Hausch made his first career start for the injured Connor Hempel and came away with his first victory. Harvard's offense was both explosive and precise, accumulating 401 yards of offense with no turnovers. The Crimson struck first with a 9-play, 57-yard drive, culminating in a beautifully thrown pass to the corner of the end zone from Hausch to receiver Andrew Fisher. Fisher, a junior from Diamond Bar, California, would finish the day with a career-high 12 receptions for 115 yards. Paul Stanton Jr. from Kenner, Louisiana, busted out for 120 yards on the day, 43 of which came on a big run while scoring Harvard's second touchdown. Harvard tacked on a 22-yard field goal with their first possession of the fourth quarter, giving them a 2-point lead. Hausch capped off an 87-yard drive by calling his own number.
Single wideouts to the right and left. Going to run a little option. He's going to keep, and Hutch is in the end zone. Touchdown, Crimson.
The defense landed the knockout blow with Chris Evans intercepting the ball with 1:53 remaining. With the win, It was the 10th time in 11 attempts that a new Harvard quarterback won their first start. The Crimson visited Georgetown for the first time on the gridiron. This Harvard team dominated on all sides, gaining an overwhelming 34-3 road victory over Georgetown. The Harvard defense was impressive again, holding the Hoyas to only 74 yards rushing on the day, while reaching the Georgetown play caller for 3 sacks.
Crimson going to bring some heat again, and now Nolan is being chased, and Nolan is being dropped. And corner. Correct snap to Nolan. Nolan looking. Nolan is now under pressure, and Nolan is going to be sacked.
The Crimson offense was also dominant, accumulating 558 yards on the day. Andrew Caston led the ground attack with 4 touchdowns and 139 yards rushing on 19 carries. Caston was 1 touchdown short of the Harvard record for rushing touchdowns in a game.
Pistol look this time, the give to Caston. Caston to the goal line. Caston is in for the touchdown. 1, 2, 3, 4 touchdowns.
Through the air, Scott Hausch went 20 for 25 and threw for 293 yards on the day and completed a touchdown pass to Joseph Foster to complete an impressive outing. The Crimson returned to the friendly confines of Harvard Stadium on an overcast October football Saturday to meet their ancient 8 rival Cornell. During their 79th meeting, Harvard also succeeded in making their way into the record books. Senior Zach Hodges of Atlanta, Georgia, had 1.5 sacks on the day, bringing his total to 22 career sacks and giving him sole ownership of the Harvard sack record with 6 games still to play in the season. The defensive end was impressive on the day, with 6 total tackles for the game. The defense held Cornell to 35 yards rushing on 34 attempts and held the Big Red to just 175 yards of total offense. The defense dominated the line of scrimmage all day, with big plays from linebacker Eric Meads from Mount Laurel, New Jersey, Jacob Lindsey from Cleves, Ohio, and defensive tackle Obum Obukwelu from Brockton, Massachusetts. The offense came alive in the second half with a touchdown on the opening drive of the third quarter. Scott Hausch of Sugar Hill, Georgia, hit a wide-open Anthony Ferkser of Manalapan, New Jersey, for a 24-yard touchdown and a 7-0 lead. The offense continued to apply the pressure when they opened the fourth quarter with a drive finished off by a Paul Stanton touchdown.
And now Stanton all the way to the end zone. Touchdown, Crimson.
Andrew Caston scored Harvard's last touchdown of the day with a 3-yard rush that extended Harvard's streak of 7 straight games with 2 rushing touchdowns, dating back to last season. Win number 4 of the season came at the expense of Cornell, 24-7. Harvard now owned the second longest winning streak in the nation. Harvard was ready for visiting Lafayette, as the Crimson wasted little time taking control and never looked back. Andrew Fisher led the charge for the Harvard offense, gaining 237 all-purpose yards. 78 yards came on a short pass from quarterback Scott Hausch. Fisher took the pass in the flat and outran the Lafayette defense for Harvard's first touchdown of the day. The play was the 8th longest passing touchdown in Harvard history, and the junior wide receiver was the first Harvard player to gain over 200 all-purpose yards in a single game since 2011. Paul Stanton accumulated over 100 yards rushing for the 6th time in his career and notched another big touchdown run, going 43 yards on a score with 57 seconds remaining in the first half. The touchdown extended Harvard's lead to 17-0. Scott Hausch, who passed for over 200 yards on the day, found tight end Ben Broniker early in the third quarter for Harvard's 3rd touchdown in a big win over Lafayette. Harvard kicked off the second half of their season with a road trip to Princeton and a battle of 2 Ivy unbeatens.
Bring it up!
Get out to me. Go so.
The game would see the return of quarterback Connor Hempel of Union, Kentucky. The senior returned with a monster game, going 25 of 31 for 382 yards on his way to being named Ivy League Co-Offensive Player of the Week. The offense gained a school record 698 yards of total offense in a game the Crimson dominated from start to finish. Hempel wasted little time returning to form, throwing a 39-yard touchdown pass to sophomore wide receiver Joseph Foster of Fredericksburg, Virginia in the first quarter. Hempel followed up his first score with a bomb to Saitu Smith of Deerfield Beach, Florida, early in the second quarter for 49 yards and the second Harvard touchdown of the day. Hempel took the next two in on his own, scoring on a 1-yard run, followed by a 14-yard scramble with 1:27 remaining in the first half. Paul Stanton started off the second half fireworks, going 33 yards for the touchdown, taking the score to 35-0 Harvard. On the other side of the ball, the Harvard D played physically and impressive once again. They forced 12 Princeton punts, a turnover, and held the Tigers to 244 yards on the day. It was the largest margin of victory in the history of Harvard's 107 meetings with Princeton, dating back to 1877. The win was also head coach Tim Murphy's 100th career Ivy League victory. Murphy is only the fourth head coach ever to accomplish this feat in the Ivy League. The Crimson rolled into Hanover to meet the only other undefeated team remaining in the Ivy League, Dartmouth. Harvard accumulated 235 rushing yards on the day, with Paul Stanton Jr. accounting for 180 of them. It was a career day for Stanton, who also added 3 receptions for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns to his dominant performance and named Ivy League Offensive Player of the Week. Harvard's second score of the day came on some creative play calling. The Smith brothers both handled the ball on the way to a 37-yard pass from Saitu Smith to Anthony Ferkser. Harvard's impact defense would go to work midway through the second quarter when the Crimson forced a fumble recovered by Ryan Delisle of Marblehead, Mass. Delisle was named Ivy League Defensive Player of the Week for his efforts. With the win, Harvard became the only remaining unbeaten team in the H&8 and took sole possession of first place for the first time since 2011. Harvard continued to play with the energy and focus of a champion as the defense sparked the Crimson to a 45-0 shutout over the visiting Lions. Texas native Connor Sheehan went 49 yards for a Harvard touchdown. That was his second pick six of the day. With the pick, Sheehan tied the single-game Harvard record. Sheehan was awarded Ivy League Defensive Player of the Week for his efforts, also tallying 4 tackles in the game. Both Smith brothers got in on the action again this week. Saitu Smith caught a 22-yard touchdown from quarterback Scott Hausch near the end of the second quarter. His brother Samar Smith opened the third quarter with a touchdown of his own. The freshman running back from Coral Springs, Florida, had 11 carries for 114 yards and was named the conference Rookie of the Week for his efforts. Harvard goes to 8-0 with the victory and is only one of 6 undefeated teams in the country. A win against Penn will guarantee them a share of the Ivy League title and give them control of their own destiny in the quest for an outright Ivy League title. In Week 9, and looking to clinch at least a share of the program's 16th Ivy League title, the Crimson headed to Philadelphia 8-0 and 5-0 in the Ancient Eight. At historic Franklin Field, they faced off against the Penn Quakers, and emotions ran high in anticipation of a hard-fought contest. Harvard struck early with a huge 42-yard run from Paul Stanton Jr. in the first quarter. Stanton would strike again, this time from 75 yards out. Harvard offensive line, led by All-Ivy first team Nick Easton and Cole Toner, controlled the line of scrimmage all day and exerted their dominance on the Quakers' defense. They cleared the way for a team rushing total of 295 yards and a career day for Paul Stanton Jr., who finished with 235 yards on the ground, 276 all-purpose yards, and 3 touchdowns. On the other side of the ball, the vaunted Crimson defense, ranked number 1 in Division I football in points allowed, including All-Ivy first team Zach Hodges, Obum Obekwelu, Connor Sheehan, Sean Ahern, and Captain Norman Hayes, held the Quakers to under 100 yards rushing and had a vital fourth-quarter shutout on the way to the Crimson victory, 34-24. With the victory, the Crimson clinched a share of its 16th Ivy League title and 8th under Tim Murphy.
Every time you set the goal as high as you do, you still risk your heart getting broken. And you did it. You're Ivy League champ? I've never leaned on a coaching staff as much as I leaned on this one this year. Our assistant coaches did an unbelievable coaching job. Great bunch of human beings, great bunch of coaches. I'm so happy for them. All right, let's sing like champions. 1, 2, 3.
10,000 men of Harvard gain victory today. Run out of the life where Harvard holds sway. So we got all the guys and the game bands will sing again. 10,000 men of Harvard gain victory today. The legitimate knock-a-random, dominate album fun. The legitimate knock-a-random, dominate album fun. Gaya will sing for Veritas on Secretary. Legitimate knock-a-random, it's up, back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
9 down, 1 to go.
Oh yeah!
Yeah.
Oh yeah!
Crush Yale. 1, 2, 3.
Crush Yale!
From everywhere, they come here. A university born 140 years before our country. Because beyond its statues and stone buildings, Harvard still stands as the living standard. The motto, Veritas, Latin for truth. But the Veritas is, now is the time to switch off busy brains and embrace the spirit of a treasured ritual on the terra firma of this ancient proving ground. The only classroom that matters today is college football's original stadium for the final exam in Ivy League football. Underdog Yale, undefeated Harvard collide for the crown. Which side will carpe diem in the 131st edition of the game? College Game Day crashes the Ivy League and counts down to a classic in Cambridge.
College Game Day, live from the game at Harvard University.
A classic design that inspired Soldier Field, Ohio Stadium, and so many others. Harvard Stadium, born in 1903. Every concrete seat will be filled today. Extra bleachers brought in as Harvard meets Yale. For Harvard, a perfect season at stake, the first in 10 years. The outright Ivy title. A Yale win equals a share of the crown. It would end 7 years of misery versus the Crimson. Harvard has won 12 of the last 13. A chilly day, perfect football weather for Harvard-Yale, number 131. And our first visit to the campus, it really is the standard for all others. But if you love this sport, you have to understand that the roots of college football owe so much to these two programs and the battles that began in 1875.
It was amazing to get here on Thursday and have a chance to go to the Harvard practice and be around these players and the coaches. And I think the timing of game day being here could not have come at a better time for us in the midst of all the debates and arguments about who should be in the top 4, and it's all about a national championship. How refreshing to come here and watch the true meaning of a student athlete. These guys get up at 6 in the morning, they work out, they study, they go to class, they go work till midnight on their studies, but don't make no mistake, they have passion for football. Those scholarships, they love the game, what it's about, they love their teammates. Man, it's been cool to be here.
The stage was set for the 131st edition of the game. Excitement was in the air with the Ivy League championship on the line. The opening kickoff made it clear that this would be a hard-fought contest. Andrew Flesher from Little Rock, Arkansas's 25-yard field goal supplied the only points for the Crimson in the first half. The Crimson opened the second half with a 28-yard kickoff return by senior Saitu Smith. Harvard proceeded to march the ball down the field, Stanton scoring on a 1-yard run. The Crimson added to the lead.
Hands off, he's going to go the reverse. Saitu Smith looking to throw it. Got a man, Fisher, at the 10, to the 5. Fisher into the end zone. Touchdown, Crimson.
For Smith, it was the second touchdown pass of his career.
Roberts is going to look to the left, the throw, and is picked up, pulled away by Sheehan at the 35, 40, down the sideline. Sheehan at the 30, 20, 10, to the Murr Center. Touchdown, Crimson.
Sheehan became the Crimson all-time leader in interceptions returned for a touchdown with his third of the season. Yale then scored 21 unanswered points, and Harvard took possession with 3:44 on the clock at its own 22. 8 plays later, and with just 55 seconds remaining, Connor Hempel hit Andrew Fisher for a dramatic 35-yard score, putting the Crimson on top 31-24. Fisher finished the day with 264 all-purpose yards. Yale quickly drove the ball back into Harvard territory, but Scott Peters picked off Yale's final pass to seal the victory and make it 8 straight wins over the Bulldogs, and the 13th time in 14 years that Harvard defeated their biggest rival.
Great college football game. One of the greatest games I've ever seen. So happy for our seniors. So proud of our players and coaches. Great day for Harvard football.
Murphy, 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 Murphy.
Paul's been a head coach for 28 years. People said great coach and all that. I said that has nothing to do with it. For lack of a better way to put it, it's totally amazing. When we fumble, there's a part of me that says, maybe it's just not our day. But we're not going to give up. And what you did, and you've heard this before, and the way you did it, probably is the most special football game I've ever seen. You guys walk together forever now. I'm so grateful for the people in this room, and I will never forget this day, and I hope you don't either. I'm at a loss for words to describe that game, to describe how I feel about the people in this room. And that was an amazing defensive job. It was an amazing team effort. And fellas, they will never forget that one. They will be talking about that one 50 years from now. It reinforces all the things we talk about. You know, never give up. Never, ever give up.
It is my pleasure as the Executive Director of the Ivy League to once again present Coach Tim Murphy and Harvard with the Ivy League Championship Trophy.
I'd like to introduce a person. When we got here way back in 1993, hey, we had a lot of work to do. There was one guy who stepped forward and said, what do you need? What do you need to do? He endowed this position. He's helped us in so many ways. I'd like to introduce you to the godfather of Harvard football, Tom Stevenson. Come on.
The Crimson team earned a huge win in the game, an outright Ivy League title, and an undefeated season. These players worked throughout the year to prepare for their opportunity to represent Harvard University and play as a member of Harvard's football team. In 2014, that dedication was rewarded. Coach Tim Murphy was named Ivy League Coach of the Year and New England Division I Coach of the Year on his way to his third perfect season, his 8th Ivy League title, and an Ivy League record 14th consecutive season with at least 7 wins. 9 players were named first-team All-Ivy. Senior offensive lineman Nick Easton was named first team for the 2nd year in a row. And junior offensive lineman Cole Toner made his first appearance on the list. Along with breaking the all-time Harvard sack record, senior defensive lineman Zach Hodges was named to his 3rd All-Ivy team and also won the George Bulger Low Award as New England Defensive Player of the Year, in addition to co-recipient of the Asa Bushnell Cup as the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year. Senior Obum Obakwelu made his first appearance on the first-team All-Ivy list, ending the year with 38 tackles and 3 sacks. Paul Stanton Jr. averaged 110 yards a game and scored 11 touchdowns, and currently ranks 4th on the Harvard career rushing touchdown list. Tight end Tyler Hamblin from Syracuse, New York, also won the Lamar Award for dedication, in addition to being named first-team All-Ivy. Connor Sheehan made his way into the Harvard career and season record books with 3 interceptions returned for touchdowns, including 1 against Yale, and had a season total 56 tackles. Defensive back Sean Ahern led the Crimson defense with 37 solo tackles and total 51 for the season. Team captain and Georgia native Norman Hayes anchored the Harvard defense and tallied 45 tackles. 18 players in total were all Ivy selections. Andrew Fisher was selected by his teammates to receive the Frederick Greeley Crocker Award as the 2014 Harvard Team MVP. Linebacker Matt Corrin was voted the 142nd captain for the 2015 season. The perfect season of 2014 will long be remembered for a group of young men who blended their skills as one, and now, in the words of their coach, will walk together forever.